I'm originally from New Mexico, and for a while during my early 20s, I lived full-time out of a converted camper van. Most of my time was spent traveling between small towns throughout the Pacific Northwest. I loved the freedom of it. Honestly, camping alone in the wilderness always felt safer than sleeping in crowded cities. Most nights I'd find isolated forest roads or empty campsites far away from people. Usually it was peaceful. This happened during a rainy spring while I was driving through northern Washington. I'd been taking back roads for days, slowly working my way between towns. Late one evening, I found a narrow dirt road leading deep into the forest. There were a couple pull-off spots scattered along the trail, but they all looked muddy and cramped. So I kept driving until I reached a larger clearing surrounded by trees. In the middle sat an old stone fire pit. Nobody else seemed to be around. The place felt secluded. Quiet. Exactly what I wanted. I parked the van, leveled it out, and started making dinner on my propane stove. Rain tapped steadily against the roof while darkness slowly settled over the forest. Because of the weather, I stayed inside most of the evening. I cracked one of the back windows for airflow and watched movies on my laptop while listening to the storm outside. At some point, a sudden reflection flashed across my laptop screen. A light. Bright and white. Before I could react, it disappeared. Not faded away. Turned off instantly. I spun around and looked through the rear window. Nothing. Only rain and darkness between the trees. At first I assumed another camper had arrived somewhere nearby. But the more I thought about it, the stranger it felt. The light hadn't come from the road. It came from deeper in the woods. Still, there wasn't much I could do. I tried ignoring it and went back to watching my movie. Every now and then, though, I thought I heard movement outside. Footsteps maybe. Or branches snapping. But with rain pounding against the van, it was impossible to tell. Around midnight, I shut everything down and tried to sleep. The storm only got worse. Thunder rattled the entire van. Hours later, while lying awake listening to the rain, I suddenly heard something very clearly. Running footsteps. Close. Something moved just outside the van before crashing through branches nearby. After that, silence. I slowly lifted the curtain covering the side window. I couldn't see anything. The darkness outside looked almost solid. But the longer I stared into the woods, the stronger this horrible feeling became. Like somebody was standing out there watching me. I closed the curtain again. A minute later, I heard a man whispering outside. Not talking to me. Talking to somebody else. I froze. For the next several minutes, I didn't move. Then something pressed against the side door. The metal shifted inward slightly. A knock followed. A few seconds later, another knock. I stayed completely silent. The knocking continued. Slow. Patient. Finally a voice called out. County Sheriff. Open the door. The second he said it, I knew it was fake. If it were actually police, they would have announced themselves immediately. Instead the voice kept repeating different versions of the same thing. Telling me to open up. Claiming they needed to ask questions. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I carefully peeked through the curtain again. All I could make out was the silhouette of a man near the door. No uniform. No patrol car. Nothing. I realized if I waited much longer, things were probably going to get violent. So I climbed into the driver's seat as quietly as possible and started the engine. The instant the headlights turned on, I heard multiple footsteps sprinting toward the van. Not one person. At least two. Maybe more. A dark figure suddenly appeared beside my window. I slammed the van into gear and floored it down the muddy trail. For several terrifying seconds, I thought the tires were going to get stuck. But somehow the van kept moving. I didn't stop driving until I reached the highway. What scared me most afterward was realizing I never passed another vehicle on that road. Whoever those people were, they'd already been out there waiting in the woods. I reported everything the next morning. Local deputies confirmed nobody from law enforcement had been anywhere near that area during the storm. I never found out who those people were. And after that night, I stopped camping alone in isolated forest pull-offs entirely.